The Outer Banks Visitors Bureau is proud to support the Market Minutes podcast. Through our work with the Outer Banks Long Range Tourism Management Plan, and as part of the Outer Banks Promise, our pledge to inspire more responsible visitation and better stewardship, one of the promises we encourage community members to make is to support local. Small acts have big impacts. By supporting local artisans and makers that you'll see throughout the markets in the summertime and on this podcast, you're helping to preserve the creativity and spirit that makes this place so special. Make your promise today at obxpromise.com, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to another episode of the Market Minutes podcast presented by the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau, joined right now by Merv Rubiano with Strategic Angler Custom Lures in Gyotaku. Man, I keep messing it up. You've been saying it for a while though, haven't you?
Well, it takes, different people pronounce it differently.
Do they?
But at the end of the day, same thing.
Yeah. Gyotaku though.
Gyotaku. Yep.
So cool. Let's start with that.
Okay.
Because it's so cool and it's a big part of what you do. So
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes. So we moved to the Outer Banks about 4 years ago, a little bit after the pandemic. We were looking for places here, and every time we'd go put a bid on a house, it'd be gone. And so that whole time that we were trying to look, we knew that there were markets around here. You know, like we have Dowdy Park, we have Soundside, we have several different markets up and down the shore. And turns out nobody was doing Gyotaku. So kind of a little bit fast forward to current, when we moved here about 3.5, 4 years ago, we started going to the markets, and you know, I make fishing lures. And so for me, it's all about fish, right? And as we were going around, I'm like, all right, a lot of people do artwork and stuff like that. And I realized nobody does that type of artwork where you take a real fish, you put ink on it, you make an impression. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because I like color, and I've been making lures for about 15 years now. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of offer that to the folks on the Outer Banks, because turns out the last time I believe someone did Gyotaku here was, I believe, like 7 years ago. Like, you'll still see a couple in some of the restaurants. I don't know if they've retired or they no longer do it. So currently we moved, I have a shop, and my friend Brian from Greentails and my friend John, who's actually a charter captain, is like, hey, have you ever heard of this thing called and same thing. And I'm like, yeah, you mean Gyotaku? It's like, yeah, the thing where you put the fish thing in. I was like, yeah, I do it. So I did a few for them. And if you actually go to Greentails, you'll see some of the first Gyotaku that I've done when we came here about 3.5, 4 years ago. So after I did a few of that, a couple of them were like, hey, you know, can you make us more? I have some customers caught some fish with me, chartering or whatever, or we went fishing in the Hatteras. We got some cool fish. I was like, yo, can you print this for me? So I was doing it for friends. And next thing you know, we got a tent, and now we're doing stuff with Soundside and all the other market events.
And then you're the main Gyotaku guy on the beach.
It turns out there's nobody here doing it. I mean, so don't get me wrong, they teach classes at the aquarium.
Okay.
I believe like a couple of the kids who come out to the market like, yeah, we did this at the aquarium and all that. Turns out they use rubber fish, which I get it, you know.
Yeah.
It's stink free, it's slime free, which is great, and it's a perfect way to teach the younger generation on an art form that's been around for over 200 years. Like, I did not create it. A lot of people are like, oh, how did you figure this thing out? I'm like, oh, it's been around. I just happened to put my own spin on it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because traditionally Gyotaku is done with just black and white. So it's black ink on mulberry paper. Sometimes people call it rice paper. You put the ink, you rub it in, you do a little bit of touch up, and then you stamp it, which is called the hanko. It's a little stamp, usually with red ink, to kind of show the artist. But because I make lures and I airbrush and I love color, like I can pretty much paint any fish pattern that you'd want. That's where the custom part comes in. So I decided to take that stuff and incorporate it into the Gyotaku. And I did bring some examples so you could actually see kind of like the process from kind of like start to finish. And that's what I have over here.
Cool. Let's check it out.
Yeah. So the first thing that you basically do is you take your subject matter, you put it on your work surface, you stabilize it so it doesn't roll around so much and all that. And once you have that stabilized, you put ink on it, not too much. And what you're really doing is you're taking the ink and you're kind of pushing it into the scales, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So once you get it onto the scales, you take a piece of cloth or foam or paper towels, and then you dab out most of the ink. Mm-hmm. So what you're doing is you're removing the excess ink to prevent blotting, because you'll get like big globs of paint if you don't, and then you don't see the finer details. So details like the operculum, the eye sockets, even like the ventral hole, like the nose, like you won't see any of that if there's too much ink. So I have three things here just so you could kind of see it. This one here, I just printed 2 days ago. This was caught at the Pirates Cove Billfish Tournament last year. This is the tail of a 601-pound blue marlin. I was actually teaching kids that week at the PCBT, and I happened to be there, and they're like, hey, can I print that marlin hanging? They're like, yeah, sure. So this is the black and white print or impression off that tail. This is basically untouched. This just kind of, if you want to grab that. Hold that. This is the tail of a 600-pound marlin.
Wow, that's cool.
You could kind of see all the details in there that it picks up. Anything that's white is basically what do you call this? It's like a gap. So ink doesn't go in there when you rub it.
So it comes out like a negative in a way?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if you actually notice over here, and I like to point this out because most people don't know what that is. All these lines going that way, you normally wouldn't see that from far away.
Right.
But because you put ink on it and then you pull out all that artwork that the fish created, these are scales.
Yeah.
Marlin scales are not semicircular. And those are the things that you learn when you start printing fish, because you get to understand.
Because not a lot of people have those at their house to look that close at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all these are scales. And believe it or not, the scales of a blue marlin, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, most marlin, they look like daggers. They're like isosceles triangles. Mm-hmm. They're like dagger looking. And they interlock with each other. And it's kind of cool when you see that, because this is all bone, but all this here, the scales run this way. They follow that. So when the water comes through the tail, it directs the water to the center.
Wow.
So when it beats, you have that propulsion.
Yeah, it's all for a reason.
Yeah. So,
cool.
And then over here you have, they kind of look like rudders almost. They stick out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the part that I like to do is I like to do the shading part so that it actually comes out. So right now it's pretty flat. You know, traditionally it would kind of look like this. But again, I go in and I add color. So this is just fresh off the press. Mm-hmm. So this is the first stage. Now I don't have another one of these that's done, but I have a different one. And this is a blue claw. Now you can see that.
Hold that up higher.
I've started adding a little bit of detail work. I haven't put the eyes on yet because sometimes the eyes don't print properly because they kind of go in the socket. So all these are shading. And this would be like the pre-paint stage. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of goes crazy after this. And then the final product, and this is ready for framing. I have to finish building the frame. But this, if you want to open that up, this is a finished version of it. and that is
That's cool.
a red drum.
Yeah.
Now with the red drum, you can see all the scales.
Right.
It picks it up there. For me, the most important part is the eye.
Yeah.
The focal point, that draws your attention onto it. So even if I messed up over here, people's eyes are focused on that.
That's right.
And that's what makes my Gyotaku a little bit different,
Right.
compared to the more traditional way. 'Cause I like color. I mean, the world was made in color, right?
Yeah.
So why not?
That's right. So what's your favorite part of doing the Gyotaku in your style? Is it the inking part, or is it the artistic enhancements that you add after that really bring it to, full vibrant color life?
So for me, it's the learning process. So each fish is different. Like some fish are rounder than others. Some are flatter, like flounder, for instance, or halibut. Those are relatively easy to print because they don't move around so much. So for me, it's learning those things, kind of figuring out how much to rub the ink so that you don't go past the halfway line, the halfway point. Kind of like if you can imagine fish laying on its side, halfway point's right here, but because there's no marker, if you take your hand and you rub a little bit past that basically makes it all weird looking. So for me, it's learning that process because each individual fish is different. Believe it or not, 90% of the time that I spend printing the first print is not in the inking and rubbing process. It's preparation. You got to get it stable. You have to take your fins. You have to kind of flare them out. You have to put something underneath. Normally you use pins so you can actually jam it in there so the fins open up. Because most of the time when you actually catch fish, they're folded in.
Yeah.
So you have to open them up. You have, if you wanted the mouth open, you got to open it up a certain way. Kind of putting pieces of paper towel in areas where the gill plates are because it will slime up. And that usually kind of it smudges things. So for me, it's the learning process of that. And then I just zone out when I do color.
Right.
It's just one layer after another. Kind of like if you think about Photoshop, when you work on Photoshop, you do it in layers. You don't just go in and add color right away. You kind of have to do the transition and the gradients. So for me, it's that constant learning process. And the best part is when you mess up, you can always layer another color on top of it.
And you're in flow at that point anyway.
Yeah,
So,
you're just like zoned
Yeah.
out. So this one, for example, this is a finished giclée print. Now, giclée print, once I get these done, I call them either masters or mothers. I like to call them mothers because they eventually go into a digitized format that I can put on mugs and shirts.
That's cool.
And that's what we sell at the markets
Yeah.
because not everyone, we still go to the markets and people are like, oh, those are nice paintings. It's like, well, technically they're not paintings. Like,
Right.
they're impressions. I'm like, well, what do you mean? So a lot of people get like, their eyes open up. They're like, wow, you made that using a real fish. I'm like, well, and then I show them the process. It helps having a video playing when we go to the markets and people actually understand. And there are some people, which is kind of crazy. There are some people who are like, I got to get that for somebody because they fish and they want that. And I want this. And it's become artwork, So traditionally, it was used, Gyotaku was used to record the weight, the size, and the color. But now it's kind of become an art form of its own. And it doesn't have to be just fish. You could do flowers. You can do maple leaves, pine leaves. You can do branches. You can do seashells. I mean, pretty much anything if you think about it.
Have you branched out into other things?
I kind of dabbled a little bit with other things, but my first true love is fish. So I actually have a degree in marine biology. And I do have a reef tank. I keep live coral, and I've got saltwater fish. And for me, the symbiosis between all that stuff in the aquatic environment interests me. And so, like even with fish, when you go fishing for mahi, what are they feeding on? That's where the lures come into play. That's what I've been doing for over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that whole thing kind of ties everything together. I guess you could kind of say it goes around full circle. You know, I started making lures, started painting them to look like real fish, catch the fish with it. Whatever fish we catch, we print. So it's not just getting fish, like we actually catch our own fish.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about it, you know, the whole thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you started in lures.
Yes.
And then you started doing the Gyotaku.
Officially, like 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me the story of how you got started in lures and tell me about some of these lures. These are awesome. You're going to catch some giant fish with these things.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Northeast, up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey. We used to live in New Jersey. We used to go to Cape Cod all the time. And back in 2009, there's lures out there that look really, really good that most bluefin tuna could not resist. 2009, back then, the only way you can get lures here was to import them from Japan. A lot of them were handmade. A lot of them were made out of wood. And for me, since I used to fish all the time, I used to work at Apple at the time, by the way. I used to work at the Apple store in Atlantic City, so it's literally on the water. Every time after work, I'd go fish. And I had to go buy lures. Not the imported ones, just regular lures. It gets expensive after a while. You know, especially when you start losing lures to like bluefish or whatever it is, you cast it onto the rocks. So I said to myself, hey, I'll make my own. So I started making my own. Yeah, nobody told me that it was going to be hard because there's no handbook how to make lures, 2009, 2010. And so I started playing around. I started carving wood. And then the hardest part that nobody really told you about is you have to make them swim. So they're in my world, they're called stick baits because they look like sticks. They're usually carved out of a flat piece of wood. And you work it a certain way and you ballast it a certain way to kind of make it move. And that to me at that time interested me a lot. Like, how do you get a piece of wood to swim like a real fish? And trial and error.
There's like some engineering going on with that art.
Yeah, it's again, so back then there was no artwork. It was more like, how do I get this thing to swim? Eventually, I got it to swim, and then I had to teach myself how to airbrush. So the airbrushing part, the foiling part, adding scales, painting it to look like the real fish. It kind of helped that I had a bunch of books from college, from the marine bio days. It's like, okay, ballyhoo has this color on the tail. It's got a long beak. It's a member of the half beak family. So you kind of learn all that stuff and then you incorporate it. So I didn't paint pretty stuff for the first 2 years. It was more like rudimentary. Okay, this looks like the bait fish. Let's see if it works. And eventually they ended up working. Word of mouth. That's all it was. I didn't do internet stuff back then. I didn't do Instagram. I didn't do Facebook. It was more like word of mouth. One thing led to another, and I ended up leaving Apple when Steve Jobs died to kind of do stuff for myself. And that's where the whole strategic angler kind of got started, even from the signature to figuring out how to make things work. There's different bait fish for different applications. One thing led to another, and that's where we are now with the evolution of everything, starting with lures and now doing Gyotaku. And they kind of intermingle. They kind of cross paths often. So, give you an example. That is how the lures start. Just a plain cast piece. It's molded. It goes into a secondary stage where I'm putting epoxy on it, and I am Sanding it down is a lot of labor. Once that gets done, you put foil on it. And then once you put foil, there's a lot of epoxy in between to kind of get it smooth. It's almost like doing body work in a car, really. And then this would be the final stage. So this is the same lure. It starts from here, goes to the pre-process, and that would be the finished product.
That's rad, man.
And people fish this, and you can't. They're pretty hard to destroy. Let's put it that way. They're not made out of wood. I started out with wood. My hands couldn't take it. It was just too much of this. So I went the injection molding route. They're actually molded in Wisconsin for me. And so I did away with a couple of steps of the beginning stages. And so majority of what I do now is actually do the final steps because it's a lot of work sanding. And it's kind of one of those where I'm glad that I'm doing Gyotaku because it's a lot less taxing on my hands, a lot less taxing on my lungs, even though I wear a mask. When you epoxy stuff, if you know anybody who's ever worked with fiberglass or epoxy or anything like that, that stuff sticks. Yeah. And your clothes end up smelling like it. But, you know, I love it. So I continue to do it. So this would be like more fishable stuff. Fast forward from 2009 to about 2015, someone said, can you paint artwork on it? I was like, yeah, sure, we'll give it a shot. And then that happened, and that happened. So
nice.
You could see that these are not fishable. Yeah. I do have a small following of folks who will never fish my lures, but they have it hanging in their mantles, you know, Christmas tree sometimes. And currently I supply roughly about 16, 17 stores, you know, up and down the East Coast, a couple overseas, a couple in Hawaii. So yeah, we just opened up an account in California.
I just want to backtrack on the lures for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like when you were trying to get them to swim right and you finally got it right,
7 months.
Man?
7 months.
You had to have been jumping for joy.
Oh, I was like, that's how you do it. So what I found out, so when you take, I mean, it's funny because I can take a 2x4 and I can technically kind of make it swim. I found out after so much trial and error, the key to making something swim is to find the point of balance for anything, like a seesaw. Find the point of balance. Obviously, you got to attach the hooks that you plan on using and all the hardware. So you find that point of balance, and then you take your ballast or your weight, and you place it in a location in the body where you are so you find the balance point, and then you move it just ever so slightly to find the point of imbalance. Because what the lure wants to do is it wants to be stable. You know, it wants to sit straight because you have hooks dangling at the bottom. You have your body, which can either be like a V shape or round, pretty much anything, right? Once you find that point, like especially like on the ones that look like a V, kind of like this, how it's got like that taper over there. If you have a hook here and you have a hook here without a ballast point, this is going to be heavier. There's less mass here. This will sit like this in the water, which doesn't really make for a great presentation. So what you do, in this one for instance, you want to add weight in the front to counter the back hook. So you have your weight over here. So now it sits here. If the ballast point is located in the middle, like kind of like at the center of this, and you pull it, it'll just do this. You won't do anything. But if you take that ballast, you move it lower to the bottom, and you pull it, in addition to the water rushing over this curve point, the water will try to kind of push this down. And what happens is this no longer wants to track straight because your ballast point's over here. It's going to want to do this. So just that simple action, the faster you retrieve it, it starts to kick. And that's what I found out. It took me 7 months to figure out the first model to get it to swim right. And when it swam right, I was like, oh my God, that's how you do it. And ever since then, when I see something, I'm like, I hypothesize, okay, I could probably put it there and I could probably put it there. It doesn't always work. But now I have a point of reference. Once you get that point of reference, the rest of it is kind of relatively easy. The key is finding that point of imbalance in the right location. It could either be up, down, left, right, either way. And then the shape also has something to do with it too. So.
Well, and like you said, it was pre everything in the world being on the internet, so you were just kind of figuring it out, trial and error.
Oh yeah, a lot of it was trial and error. I mean, I would watch videos of how some lures swam, and there are some lures that have like lips. The lips help it move because you have, like for instance, if you have a lip over here, the water hits that. It kind of does the same thing where it doesn't know where to go. Kind of like when you stick your hand out the window when you're driving.
Yeah.
And your hand does kind of one of these. If you turn your hand a little bit, it'll go this way. Sometimes when my wife drives, I stick my hand out and I'm like, okay, this is what it does. So with a lip, it's a little bit easier. But the thing is, majority of the fish that we catch with lures this size are 200-300 pounds, bluefin tuna. And these are casting. These are not like trolling lures. Like you cast these. Imagine casting this and hooking up to a 400 pounder. Happens here all the time, every winter. We have guys who come down from Jersey, come up from Florida. We have an amazing bluefin tuna fishery here in the wintertime. They all come up here and they chase these tuna up and down between December and April. As a matter of fact, this was caught just outside Jeanette's Pier.
Nice.
This was 180 pounds. It was 69 inches, and we caught it in about 45 feet of water. So yeah, the fact that we moved here, this area has now become my testing grounds, which is, couldn't ask for a better place to do it.
Yeah, so. That's super cool. Where can people find you online? You have other stuff going on too. We'll touch on that.
Yeah.
But for this stuff, where can people find you online?
So the website is strategicangler.com. You can find pretty much majority of my lures there. I have my dealer network on there. I have a little spot on the website that says Gyotaku on it, but I don't put a lot of stuff on there for Gyotaku because some of the items that I have, like for instance, that drum is that big.
Yeah.
To ship something that big with glass in a frame, you kind of start doing, is it going to get there in one piece? So I don't put a lot of the Gyotaku stuff online for people to purchase, but I do put some of the stories behind it because a lot of the fish that we catch has a story. Like I know the guy who caught it, I know where they caught it. I don't weigh most of it, but the story is there. So they can find that online. I do have a secondary kind of touching base on the other things that I do. I have a secondary entity called Small Lure Company. Small Lure Company is also lures. They're not custom per se. Custom meaning you tell me you want your boat name on this, I'll put your boat name on it. You tell me you want, because you keep koi. You tell me you want to put certain koi on this because you have a pond and you think it's cool. I can do that. SLC, Small Lure Company, is my production lineup. This happened right around the pandemic when I couldn't work because everything was shut down. Mm-hmm. So these guys were born based off of my custom pieces.
Nice.
Now these guys are made offshore. It's a whole lot less work compared to epoxy. Like it takes me about 5 weeks to make about 2 dozen of these.
Wow.
Because of the work involved with the different layers of epoxy and paint. It's not something that you can knock out in 1 week. It's just there's so many layers on it. Epoxy takes 48 hours to dry. On these are my production lineup. I designed everything. I did the CAD design. I did all the work. I even prototyped the colors, and then I sent all that design off, and I'm actually partnered with, he's a friend of mine now. He has a factory overseas, and they do the semi-custom work. And the reason why I keep saying semi-custom, custom, semi-custom, is because these are technically semi-custom, because not only are they based off of my custom pieces that are large, they offer a very similar look,
Yeah.
a very similar paint job.
Yeah.
And
That's cool. Yeah.
even the packaging on there, I had to design the packaging because I did not want plastic
Right.
in my packaging at all. Every time I go fishing, I keep seeing like pieces of plastic.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna make something that is going to be for the masses, where I'm not making like 10 to 20, where I could be selling like 100 to a store. I don't want my name on a piece of plastic that's gonna sit there.
That's right.
After I'm long gone.
That's awesome.
The box took me 4 months to design. But
It's cool though.
no, it's
looking
different.
box.
It looks different.
Yeah.
When you go to a tackle store, you see walls and walls of blues and pinks and everything, and then you come across this one like it's cardboard.
Right.
Well, I believe the item inside should be the one doing the talking, not the packaging. And I will back all these up because not only do they work and swim like the big ones, they also look the part. And these are all tuna grade. So that's the other thing that I do too, amongst other things. Too many things. Too much
Jack
going
of all
on.
trades.
Too.
Hey.
Master of none.
That's COVID forces you to kind of
Yes.
change the way you're looking at things.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but it turned out well for you.
Well, it's the learning. I'm constantly learning. Even though I have all these things going on, there's still times when I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. Oh, that's how to make it work. Like, it's a learning process for me.
Do you ever get to the point where you've mastered something and now you're itching to learn something different?
No, I'm always I don't think I've ever mastered anything, because if you look at some of my original, I'll give you an example. I hid this one. This is one of my very first original lures before I transitioned. That's actually all hand cast, hand poured, the wires hand bent, everything. But compare that to that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's how it's always a learning process.
Yeah. So
it's
you're just leveling up every year.
trying to.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the wire in the very beginning, that's only 1.6 millimeter.
Uh-huh.
Somebody caught a huge fish. The bottom wire twisted a little bit. And they're like, hey, I caught this fish. It's beautiful. Can I bend this wire? I was like, you know what? Let me see what I can do about that wire.
Yeah.
And then I made it 2.2 millimeter, which is really hard to bend.
Right.
But it's the feedback. It's the constant feedback. People letting me know, even on the artwork. They're like, oh, your fish kind of looks comical. It's cute. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't want it to look comical. I want it to look real. So you're always learning, always learning. So for me, that's the draw. It's learning something that you're really like or passionate about, because once you start doing it and you enjoy it, it shows.
It's the process.
It's
for
the
you.
process.
Yeah.
You
You like
don't want to
process.
say trust the process.
Yeah.
Trust the process. It's always a process.
That's awesome. Merv Rubiano with Strategic Angler
Yep.
Customs and Gyotaku Fish Prints. I
Gyotaku,
just said it
yep.
wrong again, didn't I? Say it again.
Gyotaku.
Gyotaku. I'm gonna learn that.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
it's around.
I need to learn how to pronounce it.
Yeah, there's-
cool history behind it.
a lot of places here who actually saw us at the markets or at the shows. They're like, oh, we'd love to put some artwork here and there. And last year was our very first year where we started doing stuff with Alex at Soundside. Like, last year was our first true market year. And within all of 2025, like, I'm glad. I'm happy that people have approached and seen some of the stuff that I'm able to do for our local community. And I am now in Down Creek Gallery in Ocracoke.
Oh, nice.
I'm in their arts. I am in 3 tackle stores, one in New Jersey, one in Mass, and one in Maryland that carry, actually, I'm sorry, Hatteras Jack. He actually has some of the Gyotaku as well, along with a couple of the local establishments here. So Sea Chef at Oregon Inlet, he has some originals hanging up there on the wall. So I'm just glad that people are actually seeing these things and enjoying them. And when we started doing the markets at Soundside, it was all new to everyone. So it's kind of cool because you get to meet people. And because of that, I've started also teaching kids. You know, they come over to the shop. I teach them how to do, you know, I got families come over. I teach them the process. I show them stuff. And sometimes I do commissions. So, yeah, people bring me fish. And if I get to eat them too.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the fish is your passion anyway. It's just
It is.
perfect. So
It is.
yeah.
It is.
So cool. You miss the Apple Store?
I do. You know what it was? Because I was a manager at Apple.
Uh-huh.
I miss the camaraderie.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, yes, I ran the store. I kind of showed people what they needed to do. Again, it's a teaching.
Mhm.
It's the teaching. I was an operations manager. I was a sales manager. I was a store manager. It was always the teaching process. It's always showing someone what you know. You know what the saying is. It's like surround yourself with people who are better than you, so that you can elevate yourself as well. And for me, doing this Gyotaku stuff, I have not mastered this. I still talk to other guys in the art world, and I still watch like YouTube videos of other people doing it, so I can kind of learn how they do things. Like I didn't know about color gradients. There are some people who do Gyotaku where they literally put color on the fish. I can't do that because apparently when you put red and blue, it becomes purple. You know what I mean? So for me, I always start with a black and white, and then I just layer it. So that's my process. There's different ways of doing it, and there's a heck of a lot more better artists out there who do this stuff compared to me. The lures, I think I've kind of gotten close to being good, but never perfect. And I would never say I'm a master in anything because it's always learning, just a learning process. So yeah, I mean, the markets have helped, and the fact that the market community keeps getting bigger and bigger every year, annually, it just kind of goes to show that there are people who do appreciate the artwork, and that's the reason why we're doing it. Not just us, like all the vendors.
Right.
If we go out there, and whether it be bread or jewelry, if no one's buying it or no one's interested in it, why do it?
Yeah.
So that keeps us going.
And it's a whole vibe of like-minded people out there.
Yes.
So yeah, that's cool.
It's a whole, what do they call that? It's a community of makers and shakers. And that's what we do.
Nice.
So this is my full-time gig, between the lures and the Gyotaku. And I don't know if I'd want to do something else other than this. Maybe cook in the kitchen every now and then.
Right. Well, Merv, continued growth, and we'll see you out at Soundside Market.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks, Chad.
Appreciate it.